Hey, all you Arizona lovers. This is the Finding Arizona podcast, episode number 370. I'm your host, Jose. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Today's episode is with CAVE&POST Trading Co., and we were so happy and delighted to have Patrick, who is the creator behind it, come in and share his story of his store. I want to say this is a special, unique place where you can not only get some really cool men's gear and fashion, but you can also experience the stories behind them. Patrick does his best to curate and make sure that they have quality products on top of some long-lasting names that go along with it, and the stories behind them are so incredible. So enjoy this episode. We're going to jump into a little bit of the business side. You can hear every episode of our podcast at findingarizonapodcast.com. We make it easy for you guys to connect with us. Everything is under Finding Arizona Podcast on social media wise, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Let us know what you want in next, who you want in next, and we'll try and make that happen. I should reframe Twitter to now say X, but I'm just going to keep it as it was because that's how my brain works. But we're moving on. If you want to say, send us an email, send us a line, findingarizonapodcast@gmail.com. That is where you'll get some also feedback from us, or you'll get a back and forth email back from us. And then on top of that, if you want to join the newsletter, there's a newsletter. If you want to just find out more about myself, my producer wife, Brittany, and our family, you can go to youtube.com/findingarizonapodcast, and there you will find our vlog, which is a little bit more of the personal side of what we do in our life. And we're doing more and more of it. We're trying to make sure that you guys are getting real good pieces of our lives and what we do on a daily basis. We're doing more and more with really incredible guests. I've been out to a couple of events and meeting new clients and new people that we want to have in the show, so that's a lot of fun. Shout out to everyone who's been a part of those events, and shout out to those who are still putting on events throughout the summer months. It is only going to get better because there are more events coming in the cooler months here in Phoenix. So I'm very excited for the future. I'm very excited for what we have for this podcast coming up, and I'm very excited for all of you to continue to grow with us and learn with us. So that being said, let's jump into this episode number 370 with CAVE&POST Trading Co. We will see you on the next one, and as always, kisses, hugs, and belly rubs to our four-legged friends. See ya.
Is a no woman.
She's ambitious.
She is a juggling life.
Oh, she is high performing.
She's self-made.
Definitely busy.
Woman supporter.
Cares about the rooms that she's going into.
Building an empire.
Definitely working in a male-dominated industry.
She is competitive.
And cares about impact.
And she's inspired by the word no.
Oh, completely relentless.
She is self-made.
She is a badass.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Jose. As always, we bring in fantastic guests every week, and today is no different. Ladies and gentlemen, I would love to introduce you to one of the founders and creators behind CAVE&POST Trading Co., and this is Patrick Burch. Welcome, Patrick.
How you doing?
I appreciate you coming aboard and joining us here. We got a lot of things to talk about, but one of the first things that we always discuss with our guests is give us a little bit of the origin story. I know particularly because I've done some research, but I'd love to just hear and let our fans hear how this all came to be.
Yeah. So, my wife and I have always enjoyed retail. We actually used to work retail growing up. And early in marriage, when we had young kids, we actually, started a child's kids boutique that we had for a couple of years. It was kind of right around when the Great Recession hit. So we ended up having to close that store. But it was always something we really enjoyed, wanted to get back into it, and felt that there was a big hole in the market as it pertained to men's retail.
Yes.
It's hard to find good guy shops. Historically, most shops were suiting type shops, and especially in the West, that's just not the way guys dress. And then now, as a result of COVID, it's even less the way guys dress when people are working from home more or doing Zoom calls more. And so, it's casual about kind of men's fashion in general. So in any case, we always thought there's just a big hole in that market. And if we ever got back into retail again, opening up a shop again, we wanted to do a men's focused boutique. And that's kind of what we did. So, we were kind of looking for a space for some other reasons a few years ago, and happened upon a space. We are looking for some warehouse space to do a number of different things with our son, who's a welder, and some different stuff like that. Happened upon a space over in Central Phoenix that had a warehouse, but it had a little kind of retail spot in the front. And we initially had thought, let's just lease that out to help pay the bills for the warehouse space. And then it was kind of like a whirlwind. We thought, let's just rock and roll on the men's store. We wanted to do it for a while. So it kind of progressed really quickly, and that's what we did.
Yeah. And let's not sugarcoat it. I'm going to just kind of touch upon a little bit of the stuff. I'd love to, just because you're in an iconic space. It used to be, I believe, costume, Easley's. And so you guys are in the heart of downtown, and just kind of one of the most recognizable spots now, because it's such a growing market. And 7th Avenue and McDowell. Yeah. So one, congratulations on the second store and second, storefront, and just making things come to life after having this one store and now creating a new one. Two, I'd love to just ask you, what was that conversation like with your wife, and just having to, hey, look, we found a spot. We've always talked about, wanting to do this, which, what was that kind of building that portion of that like conversation? And also for the fact that it's like COVID was probably going down while it was, happening. And then on, everything else, how did that conversation with your family, with your son and with your wife go down?
It was honestly, there wasn't a ton of thought about it. We decided to buy this other space, like I said, for the warehouse, and we were trying to decide what to do with the front space. And it was kind of like a eureka moment where we thought, why don't we just do what we've talked about doing? I think initially we thought we would do it later in life, maybe when kind of life sort of slowed down a bit. Yeah. But we're like, we have this space. Why don't we just do what we've talked about doing? And interestingly, we had kind of already begun sort of collecting old antiques and some stuff like that along the way, not really knowing exactly what we were going to do with all of them. Nice. But and just kind of buying some old sort of vintagey type stuff. And so, it kind of all just sort of came together without a ton of like, oh my gosh, it was, let's do this. Okay, let's do it. There wasn't a huge amount of conversation. What is that going to entail? And my wife is the merchandiser. She's very good at all of that kind of stuff. So I think I immediately just thought, you're going to handle that kind of stuff. We will both handle sort of the idea behind the buying and what we have in the store. And I'll kind of handle the website type, the e-commerce type side of things. But looking back, it's almost like a blur, the fact that COVID was existing, we didn't really think about it all that much. Yeah. Meaning like, we just thought, things are going to calm down and people are going to go back to the shopping. And COVID actually had a unique sort of luck situation that, resulted in the way guys dress really changed as a result of COVID. And that was a benefit to us. So, and we just knew inherently that there's a huge hole in that market. Guys like to dress, a number of years back, Lululemon started to make men's clothing. And I was very aware of that at the time and kind of watched it with sort of an eye of, this isn't going to work. Like, what are they doing? And it worked incredibly well. And so what that sort of told us was, guys are spending money in a way on their fashion like they never have. My thought in that example was, it's expensive. But guys didn't seem to have a problem spending the money. So it just seemed like spending habits had changed. And if you actually do some research on spending habits, guys spend a lot more money online than women do, which is just an interesting thing to sort of think about. Yeah. Historically, for good or for bad, whatever you want to say, like, it seems like women had this like sort of, reputation of being the shoppers, and it's not the case really. So you, at least not anymore. So anyway, there's all of these things that sort of came together, and it was kind of just a whirlwind. And I don't really remember a ton of the conversations. I just remember I jumped in, feet first, and started working on it with my wife. So
That's perfect. I love that because for me, in particular, finding these stories about different businesses that either were created during COVID or have long lasted over the time period that COVID happened, it's just kind of fascinating to see those silver linings because, some had failed and closed up, but
right.
others had floated to the top and survived the windstorm. That to me is just really great to be able to pick out the few that were silver linings, and hearing your story makes it incredible to just kind of witness and hear from the horse's mouth. I'd love to just understand a little bit about the buying process and how you guys work at your store. I know every store is a little bit different, but I'd love to just get the kind of just a little bit of the behind the scenes for you for the online portion, and then the day to day, or the doors opening, and what you have to do on the day to day.
Sure. So historically, buying has happened through markets, we call them markets, they're trade shows, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
So as a result of COVID, a lot of those markets sort of put everything on pause for a little bit of time. And when we started getting going, we just did a ton of research online as to brands that we wanted to carry, stories that we wanted in our store, and that kind of stuff. And then now, as things progress further, there is we do go to a number of markets. There's a couple, specifically, there's one in Chicago that's a men's market that we go to twice a year. We just got back from New York
Nice.
to visit a couple clients or a couple vendors. So it's a little combination of both. Obviously, in the world of social media and the logarithms and all of those kind of things, the stuff that we're looking at, you start to get recommendations of other stuff to look at, and so
Yeah.
you look at that kind of stuff, and that helps. But part of what we wanted to do as well is to carry as many what's referred to as heritage brands as we could.
Yeah.
Both heritage brands and American made brands, and there's kind of a crossover in both of those things. So an American made brand doesn't necessarily have to be a heritage brand. It can be a newer brand that people are just doing cool stuff in America. And then heritage brands are brands like Red Wing and Shot New York City and Filson, and these brands that have been around forever and ever.
Nice.
And so when you can do research, which we did, for example, we wanted to carry an American made sunglasses brand. So I did some research to find stuff that fit that, and we ended up with American Optical, they're legitimately the original aviator. They've been around since 1833. They made aviators first before anybody else. They have the iconic John F. Kennedy sunglasses. So it's funny because people look at JFK's glasses and think they're Ray-Ban Wayfarers, and they look at aviators and think they were the original one. American Optical was around since 1833. So we love doing stuff like that has a story.
Yeah.
And it's also cool because our shop is very curated in a, kind of an antique-y sort of man cavey cool sort of way. And so when you have these brands that have stories, you can usually find old merchandise that with, it all fits into the kind of the overall aesthetic. So,
Yeah.
And then brands like Shot New York City, still made in New Jersey. And, that was like the iconic moto jacket from James Dean, and just different stuff like that. We love.
Nice.
We don't just want to sell stuff to make money. We want to sell kind of things that have a cool story and that we can talk about, and you get excited about being a part of that story. So
Yeah. And that's kind of the antithesis of where we come from, is where my podcast comes from, is just I was in the thick of it as a screen printer back in grad school. And for me, I was meeting all these different business owners that had stories that they wanted to tell and wanted to share. And I felt like that was all very, like, everything was on brand. Like, everything was really, every story that I caught was just like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's really cool. And I wanted to share those. And so for me, it was just like, let's do it. Like, let's grab these, individuals. And I feel really special in the sense that we are lucky enough to capture these moments in time where these owners are just like either on the precipice of something or already doing iconic things. And so I feel like with your store, it's that same kind of idea of like you go in and you are not thinking it's what it is, but it is these iconic pieces that you will
Right.
forever have as a part of your wardrobe. And so I love that. I think that that's really cool. And I've passed by it. I've never gone inside. And now I really want to go inside and go by and get something from you because like literally it's everything of my like eclectic, like it's just who I am too. It's like I know if I go in there and I get something, I'm gonna have a great story to go along with it. So
Right.
that's something that I've always kind of wanted in my own wardrobe because I kind of do it anyways. I kind of like have these pieces that I'm like, oh, I got this from here, and the story behind this is such and such. And
Right.
I think that you have the absolute best way of like you're not selling yourself like you're selling yourself a little bit, but you're also selling that story. You're selling, like you said, the original glasses of have from 1800s. It's beautiful. It's like I can connect with that. That's so great. Um, Thank you again for like making it so easy to kind of go to one place and have these pieces because like if you were going like in the Southwest, there's not many places already like that. And so that's great that you're able to make it easily accessible. So I really appreciate that as well. Let me ask you this. As far as your store and your son's like, shop, how, are you guys like working together in any sort of fashion? Because it seems like it's such a great family dynamic that you have and what that might bring together in such different ways of like an event or something like that. Do you guys ever, cross path and work together in some sort of fashion?
So initially that was the idea with that warehouse space, and it kind of morphed into, we kind of wanted it to be this collaborative craftsman space that he was going to work in.
Mhm.
It morphed and changed to where it was interesting because we learned stuff along the way that you can't have wood guys in with metal guys because they're creating so much dust and there's problems. So long story short is he is still in the welding business. He's still doing that, but he works for a company now, a really creative, artistic sort of welding company.
Nice.
So he doesn't still have that space. He's out kind of doing something different, but we still
Okay.
do work together insofar as, if I need, if we want to help, he helps maybe with some fixtures, with some different kind of stuff like that. And I
Nice.
could see us working together longer term down the road, or not longer term, but in the future on more different types of stuff, because we're always coming up with ideas for cool interior fixtures or things that we could do here that is hard to find the right trades to do it. And so, we haven't done a ton of stuff in that regard, but I could see it happening in the future. So
Awesome. I really appreciate you getting me a little bit closer to your personal side because that's kind of where I want to lead to, and that's
right.
just kind of like how this a conversation is going. I'd love to get your personal like favorite, like because I see the hats in the back. Are you a hat guy? Like, what's your personal favorite, piece to kind of show off in the store?
It's interesting. In general, we joke around with guys about guys being not necessarily willing to step out in their fashion. So it's, guys typically are more conservative in the way they dress, or at least historically have been, to say, hey, try something like this. I mean, you hear wives say all the time, oh, he finds one shirt that he likes and he buys them in all the colors, and that's like his uniform.
Yeah.
And we're always telling guys, take a risk and step out and do something that you always thought was cool, but that you didn't think was necessarily you, or you didn't think you would be willing to do it. And I think hats are a perfect example of that. I've loved hats since I was a kid. When we travel, I would want to go to hat shops, and just like it was something that I thought was cool. And even me loving them, it was still hard for me to go, I'm going to actually wear this. And so that is a accessory that have definitely come back, especially as of late, with different shows that have been popular, like Peaky Blinders or Yellowstone, or these different things where hats are a daily accessory that everybody in the show wears. We've always encouraged guys, and my wife will say to somebody, put the hat on and don't look in the mirror, just go out and stop thinking about it. And inevitably what happens is you get compliments on it, because your buddies will ride you a little bit and joke and kind of make fun of you. And you're like, and I tell people the only reason they're doing that is because they don't have the guts to wear it themselves. It's
Yeah.
a really cool accessory. And hats are incredibly popular right now. And guys are making, custom hats for $1,200-$1,500 and they have weight lift. I mean, it's wild. So it's definitely, I think that's an accessory that's kind of come back into fashion. And it's something that I love because you can find, it's like a piece of art.
Yeah.
We sell vintage guitars in the shop, for example. And
Very cool.
Again, that's another thing that I think is, hey, these are cool things to have that people love. And they're not only that, it's a cool accessory for your house. So like a hat, you put it on the wall and it looks really cool. You put it on a shelf. A guitar is the same thing. So these are things that, like, I think when you come into our store, you go, oh, they look so cool around. Well, they look cool in your house too. You don't necessarily have to, if you buy a $1,500 hat, it's not just, oh my gosh, I'm never going to wear that, or I'm only going to wear that a few times a year. It's more than just a piece of clothing, if that makes sense. So, I mean, I'm a big hat guy. I love hats, and it's something that I think most people should give a shot to. And honestly, every time you wear a cool hat, inevitably somebody says, I love your hat. Like, you get a compliment.
Absolutely.
So anyway, that's kind of my favorite sort of accessory sort of thing that we've always, tried to push.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm like a big hat guy. I got a whole, like, in my bedroom, we have like a couple of racks in our, set up so that we can put the different hats on, and it's like 3 rows deep. So we definitely use them as like fixtures and, as art pieces on our in our living or in our bedroom. But I also am just a fan of, like, again, it comes in so many shapes, sizes, and features. Like, you can add stuff to it and it's still different. And that's why I enjoy, like, it's, again, like you said, it's an iconic piece and you'll definitely get compliments. You guys also have, like, more than just clothing. You get, like you said, you have the guitars. I know that you guys also have personal care, like, for men, as like, I don't know if it's body wash, face wash. Can you give me a little insight on that?
So we have a whole slew of everything, basically. So, and we call ourselves a men's mercantile. At the end of the day, we're more of just like a shop in general, because we are starting to carry some women's stuff as well, a very curated sort of small section. But we do sell a lot of different candles, a lot of really cool coffee table books.
Nice.
We sell cologne, but most of our cologne is more like unisex. We sell some lotion and linen spray, room spray. We carried a line of stuff that was like, bug spray, like, but coolly packaged. Sounds weird, but it was like a well packaged kind of more natural version. So a lot of different stuff like that, sunglasses, matches, really cool wooden matches. We sell, and then we have a whole section or surround around the store of, vintage sterling and turquoise jewelry. That's very unisex in a lot of ways. Cool bracelets and different stuff like that for guys. So we're kind of all over the place. It's not, I mean, I joke and tell a story that even before we had a little women's section, I had to get my sister a birthday present one day, and I came into her and I was in the store, and I honestly had so much to choose from. I didn't really know what to get her. So, there's tons. It's great for gifts in general across the board. We sell watches. The one watch brand that we sell is Shinola, which out of Detroit, really cool handmade watches out of Detroit. Been around not super long. They have a really cool story behind the founder and his kind of Detroit heritage and all of that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a in between fashion watch and high jewelry. I don't know what you call it. Expensive, Rolex watch. It's, in the $600 to $3,000 range. So it's like a really, really nice watch, but it's better than something you might pick up at the mall, but not as expensive. So, all of those and we have women who buy the watches as well. So there's a lot of crossover between, our, personal care and accessories that is very unisex.
Awesome. Well, that's really great to hear. I mean, again, it's from my perspective, a place that, again, you definitely want to go into and check it out and just be in there for a couple hours just to kind of take it
Right.
all in, because I can imagine between the books, between, the care, all the wares, like you're gonna get lost in there a little bit. You're gonna get
It
you
is,
so much to
it
choose
is,
from.
yeah, it's kind of overwhelming. We joke with our people who work here because we love talking to people.
Hmm.
So we've been huge about always customer service, but get to know the customer first. We have people who
Yeah.
come in literally just to talk. We
Yeah.
had a guy came in the other day and he said to my wife and Ann, our main manager, he was like, "This is the best therapy I've gotten," and just hanging out and talking with people. So,
Yeah.
but it's funny. We also joke. We go, the longer you stay in the store, the more stuff you find to
Yeah.
buy, because we have so many things, and it's really packed in here, and there's cool stuff hidden everywhere. So yeah, you kind of do have to spend a while. I mean, we recently had Tyler Childers and his band stopped by before
Nice.
their show, and they ended up hanging out for 2 hours and just like looking around, playing with stuff,
That's
and
awesome.
yeah. So you can spend some time in here for sure.
I love that. And it just makes your job a little like it just seems like you love what you do and you're passionate about what you do. And I always say that when you have that passion, it shows, and the customer base will also follow along with you. And
Right.
so that's why we're here today, is just to kind of show that off and be a cheerleader for you guys. So I really do appreciate, Patrick, you letting us just, spend some time with you and really enjoy what you have to offer. Towards the end here, we're reaching, we leave it and ask one last question, which is goals, things that you guys want to achieve, things that we can help you make happen. If our listeners can help make happen, please let us know.
So the goal of the store has always been to eventually create sort of a lifestyle brand.
Okay.
So it's not just about having a boutique and working in the boutique. It's to create almost like an online magazine, if that makes sense. Magazines seem to be dying to some extent, or print does, but a one-stop shop for, hey, you go here, almost like a men's journal. So you go
Yeah.
to our website, you find cool articles, you find cool tips on where to go eat or what new music is out, or where to travel to. But mixed in that article, there's stuff that you see as part of those like adventures and experiences, whether it be what you wear or what you use to cook, or something that your bags that you're traveling with, or all of those things that you could buy as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly how to explain it, except for the fact that it's a place to go to become a hip Renaissance man, if
I
that
love
makes
it.
sense. So,
No, I
like,
love it because it's
learn
exactly
how to.
what I want. It's
Right.
exactly my personal taste, and that I'm like, yeah, that's something that I'm like looking forward to making, like helping you out, and like I want to help you in so many ways. So, like, yeah, that makes so much sense to me. Like I love your guys' style, and I love what you guys bring to the table. So like to me, I completely understand.
Sure. Yeah. And it's like, in the way, long time ago, where the term Renaissance man came from, it was about, having a well-rounded knowledge of a lot of different things. Well, what that is today is different than what it was a long time ago, but it's the same kind of idea. Like, be able to pick up a guitar and play a song. And maybe you find that on our website,
Yeah.
eventually, hey, this is how to write a basic song. These are the 4 chords you need to know. And by the way, you can buy the guitar here as well. Or, learn a little bit about cooking. And we sell some cool stuff for that, some cool, seasoning salts and some different stuff like that. Or learn about hats and the history of them. Like, being able to talk about those kind of things makes you a more interesting person,
Mhm.
not just, hey, I had this hat I bought for $1,000 and that's it. Like,
Yeah.
if you know a little bit about shaping and about the different, what the X's mean when you pick up a Stetson, and what the fur is made of, or what animal furs are made, like, it just makes you a more interesting person.
Mhm.
And so the idea behind our shop is, become a more interesting person, not just with the way you dress, but what you know about certain things. And I think
Yep.
our website, eventually, we want it to be more that. And it's a slow process. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of
But it would
content.
be great
Yeah.
for us to create. Yeah. But it would be very cool for us to be able to create our own content at some point, as well as bring in other people's content. So, it's a work in progress, but that's the goal of Cave and Post. I mean, the idea you know, behind the name was the cave is kind of the man cave, and the post is a trading post. So to bring those two things together, I think is the overall understanding of what we're trying to create.
And I love it. I think that what you guys have is something very beautiful, and it is definitely. I think that you can make this happen. I have high hopes for you. You guys are already on top of, you know, the storefront. You got the brick and mortar, and I think making the content will definitely come down into your using all the products, using everything, and explaining what it means and where it comes from. I think that's probably the first thing you start with, and I think it'll just grow more and more. So I have high hopes for you guys, and I know that it's going to be something very beautiful to watch along the way as your journey goes forward. So again, the very last part of this conversation is just the promotional part. Tell us where we can find you online, your physical address, anything and everything that you want to promote. Go right ahead. The floor is yours.
So we are at 509 West McDowell in Phoenix in the old Easley's building. We're right between a coffee shop, Cafe Vita, and on the other side is Roses by the Stairs Brewery. We're kind of back in the corner, so sometimes people miss us. But so yeah, the old iconic Easley's building there. And then online, it's caveandpost.com. Instagram is caveandpost. So it's very easy to find us. You know, you can sign up. We're starting to do email marketing. We don't overdo it. I think we're doing one a week right now.
Nice.
At most. The emails typically have some cool content in there as well, some cool articles, but as well as promotions or what we're doing. You can get 10% off your first order by signing up for emails. So yeah, if there's something expensive that you've been eyeing that you want to, you know, it's good to use that 10% for that, a pair of Red Wing boots or a watch or a Filson bag, something like that. So anyway, you know, that's kind of the promotion thing. Come and see us. We love people coming in the store, and then, you know, shop. We also do curbside. So if you're
Nice.
in need of a birthday present, you find it online, you're like, I'm not gonna have a ton of time, like they'll wrap it up, and you know, you can call us when you get here, or at least it'll be ready for you. You can run in the shop and pick it up too. So that's something that I think is nice to have right now, especially when it's
Very, very
150.
good. Yeah. When it's 100 plus, you're just like, I want to stay in the car. Please help me out here.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Patrick. I really do appreciate you allowing us to take some time out of your day. We do have an end piece here for us. You can hear every episode of our podcast at fightingarizonapodcast.com. All of our social media is under Fighting Arizona Podcast, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. DM us who you want in next, and we'll try and make that happen. And last but not least, if you want to just send a plain old email, that's good too. fightingarizonapodcast@gmail.com. And as always, we end every episode with kisses, hugs, and belly rubs to our four-legged friends. We will see you next time.